Hey guys, tonight we drift into the warm, wind-brushed world of ancient Mesopotamia, where the rivers talk in soft gurgles, the date palms rustle like whispering skirts, and clay brick houses glow golden under a rising sun. The sky is just starting to stain from black to indigo, and already the land between the rivers hums with quiet, sleepy motion. A frog plops into a canal. A farmer curses at a stubborn ox. Somewhere, someone's sandals slap lazily against wet stone. You stretch your arms and inhale that earthy perfume, mud, morning bread, and wet reeds. It's early, and the world is beginning again. And no, you probably won't survive this. You're squatting barefoot beside an open irrigation trench with a suspicious smell, trying not to fall in. This isn't a video game. It's ancient life. There's no soap, few shoes, and the most advanced tech is a sharp stick and a bucket. Good luck out there. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time in the comments. Let me know where you're dreaming from tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The reeds are heavy with dew as you shuffle down the bank. You're already sweaty, and it's barely breakfast time. Dragonflies buzz lazily across the surface of the water, and a pair of wide-eyed boys paddle past in a boat barely holding together with pitch and prayer. The Euphrates drifts by at its own pace, thick and brown and slow as syrup. You wonder how many lifetimes it has carried along like this. How many sandals and broken pots are buried in its silt. To your left, the fields stretch out in rectangular plots, checkered by narrow trenches. A couple of farmers are out early, yelling across the rows in a language that sounds like arguing, but might just be planning where to plant the onions. A donkey brays unhelpfully nearby. You wave. One farmer grunts. The donkey gives you side eye. That smell? It's not your imagination. Fertilizer in this world is generous. Still, there's a beauty in it. The dirt is rich. The palms sway overhead. The sun, low on the horizon, paints the canal water with gold. And as you trudge along the packed earth road, your feet kicking up fine dust, it hits you. This really is the beginning. Civilization, right here under your aching arches. The first real cities, the first real laws, the first real, well, accounting. Yeah, not glamorous. But someone had to keep track of all those sheep. You pause by a low mud brick house, half crumbling but alive with signs of mourning. A child darts past, hair wild and face sticky with something suspiciously fig-like. A woman pours water from a clay jar, splashing her hands and face. She looks at you, amused. You're not from around here, obviously. You try to smile like someone who totally belongs next to a basket of dried fish and a wall coated in soot. A skinny cat meows indignantly from a rooftop. A pair of doves flap noisily into the sky. The world smells like baked earth and coming heat. Fun fact, Mesopotamians invented the 60-minute hour. That means every time you glance at the clock, you're whispering thank you to some long-dead Sumerian who wanted to divide time by 12. Historians still argue why they did it that way. Some think it was based on celestial movements. Others blame it on how many knuckles you can count on one hand. Either way, it's stuck. You pass a field where a man is coaxing a tired ox through a furrow. The plow squeals. The ox sighs like it's reconsidering its entire existence. There's a moment of mutual understanding. Both of them have had enough before breakfast. The man, clearly an expert in ancient motivational speaking, smacks the ox gently and mutters a prayer to Enlil under his breath. And then, because of course this happens, you step right into a patch of soft mud, and your sandal stays behind. You wiggle your foot out with a squelch and glance around. Nobody's watching, but you still feel judged. A little further down, a group of workers kneel by a canal gate, prying it open with long poles. Water rushes into a new trench, and the nearest man cheers like he just won a chariot race. It's a minor miracle every time irrigation works. Without these careful networks, dug by hand and maintained by sweat, this land would be nothing but dry plains. You can almost hear the city planner of Lagash from 2300 BCE shouting teamwork and high-fiving someone with a sunburn. And here's something that doesn't make it into the school books. One of the oldest Sumerian words we know. It's Q, a sound used in spells to ward off evil spirits. No one really knows what it meant exactly, but it probably sounded like something between a sneeze and a threat. You whisper it under your breath as a fly circles too close. Coo. Nothing happens, but the fly backs off. Coincidence? As the sun climbs, the village shifts into motion. More figures emerge, some carrying baskets, some leading animals, some already deep in debate about market prices, or someone's suspiciously late delivery of lentils. One man tries to mount a mule. The mule disagrees. The man ends up on the ground, still yelling. Past the last field, the land rises slightly. You crest a low hill, and there it is. The city. Ancient and sun-washed, sprawls in adobe serenity. Its walls shimmer with heat. Its ziggurat punches up through the skyline like a massive layered wedding cake offered to the gods. You'll be there soon enough. But for now, the river still sings at your side. A pair of fishermen haul in nets, cursing in rhythmic harmony. A clay jug rolls past your foot and into the water, then just floats away, off to join the thousand lost things the Euphrates has swallowed over the centuries. Your path bends through a date grove, where a man with more wrinkles than teeth offers you a fruit. You bite into it. It's warm, sticky, and a little too real. He laughs and says something you don't understand, then slaps the side of a palm tree like it owed him money. You keep walking. The light sharpens. The sweat clings. The road rises gently. And behind you, the reeds whisper secrets only old gods can understand. The light is harsher now, and the ground cracks dry beneath your feet. You follow a winding footpath carved by generations of sandals, hooves, and dragged baskets. Its edges littered with last season's broken tools and someone's lost headscarf. You scratch your neck. It's hot. Really hot. Your water skin is empty, and you haven't even hit the wheat fields yet. A shout draws your gaze toward a dusty plot where a group of workers bends low over the soil. Their robes flutter like sails in the windless morning as they tug and slice at dry stalks with curved flint blades. You've wandered into the breadbasket now. Mesopotamia wasn't just the land between two rivers. It was the cereal aisle of the ancient world. Wheat and barley were life, currency, lunch, and taxes all rolled into one. The farmer you're squinting at? He's not just sweating for food. He's sweating for scribes and priests and palaces. Everything's measured in sheaves, and a missed harvest means a very grumpy tax collector with too many tablets and too few goats. You pick your way around a ditch as two younger laborers heave a heavy bundle of stalks into a waiting cart. The ox harnessed to it has stopped chewing long enough to consider death as an option. You pat its shoulder. It pretends you're not there. A man nearby is arguing, no, lecturing his plow. You're not fluent in ancient Sumerian, but the tone is universal. He's probably saying something like, "Why are you doing this to me?" Or, "This is why I didn't take over my uncle's pottery business." The plow, meanwhile, remains unmoved, literally. Its wooden blade is stuck, again. He looks at you. You nod in solidarity. He nods back. For a moment, two millennia collapse into mutual workplace frustration. You wander farther out, following a line of reeds toward a clay-walled enclosure where goats argue over a turnip. One bleats in your direction, clearly offended by your vibe. You try to defend yourself, but are drowned out by the sudden arrival of a small boy riding an upside-down basket like a chariot. He whoops and crashes into the goats, scattering them, and earning himself a shout from the nearby herdswoman, who doesn't even look up from her spindle. It's chaos, but it's a rhythm too. A woman approaches you with a smile and a jug of water. Her face is lined, sunburnt, and strong. She doesn't say anything, just hands you the jug. You drink. Cool, faintly smoky from the clay. It's like sipping stone in sunlight. You hand it back, nod your thanks, and she grins. You realize she's missing half her teeth. Doesn't seem to mind. Somewhere behind her, someone yells about a wild pig in the barley again. Another person yells back, "It's not wild. It's Zabin's pig. It just hates him." A third voice, further off, "Don't blame the pig. I'd chew your roof too if you fed me that slop." And you think, yeah, this feels like a Tuesday. Historical note incoming. Most Mesopotamian farming was done by community units, often on temple-owned land. These weren't free market entrepreneurs. They were tangled in networks of tribute, rations, and religious duty. Temples weren't just for praying. They ran the farms, stored the grain, and owned the cattle. So next time you picture a priest, try imagining them with an abacus and a clipboard, because they basically invented corporate bureaucracy. The clatter of a stone grinding wheel draws your attention to a nearby shade structure where a group of women kneel around a large slab, rhythmically turning barley into flour with round stones. Their laughter dances over the dust. You hear snippets, something about a wedding, a brother who smells like fish, and a dream about marrying a palace guard with enormous eyebrows. Your stomach growls. The scent of baking flatbread wafts from a nearby oven. You drift toward it like a cartoon character on a scent trail, only to be shooed away by an old man with ash on his forehead and flour on his knees. He points to a sign etched in the mud wall. "Not for travelers." You nod and back away. Fair enough. Quirky tidbit time. The Mesopotamians believed that if your ox refused to work or your grain spoiled, it might be because a demon had crawled into your tools. There were actual incantations to banish evil from plows and scythes, because clearly the problem couldn't be that it was 108 degrees Fahrenheit and you were trying to till clay with a glorified stick. You rest for a moment under the shade of a lean-to, sharing space with a goat and a chicken who may or may not be plotting a heist. The breeze carries the dusty perfume of hay, sweat, and onion greens. You close your eyes. For a second, it's almost peaceful. Then someone yells, "Where's the irrigation chart?" You peek one eye open to see a scribe, young, harried, and clutching a slightly soggy clay tablet, wading through the field looking for a missing farmer. You watch with mild curiosity as the two reunite, argue over scheduling, then walk off in different directions, both muttering. Historians still debate just how centrally managed these irrigation schedules were. Some argue for strict temple control, while others believe local farmers operated more flexibly. Either way, it involved a lot of math, yelling, and oops, we flooded your onions again. You stretch your legs and begin walking again. The sun is high now. A flock of birds takes off suddenly from the wheat, startled by some invisible signal. Overhead, a hawk circles. Below, a little girl skips along a narrow trench wall, balancing expertly, arms wide. You pass a field where someone has set up a shrine, a clay figurine stuck on a stick, surrounded by a ring of pebbles and an offering of mashed dates. Probably a household god, asked to keep the wheat from catching fire again. You nod in respect and avoid stepping in the offering. Near the far end of the fields, where dry grass curls up like parchment, you come across a man half buried in hay, snoring. His hat has blown off. A chicken stands on his chest like it owns him. You tiptoe by. The city wall is closer now. You can see the zigzag of mud brick and shadow where the road begins to harden into a real street. The wilderness of barley and goat drama gives way to something bigger, louder, and stranger. You wipe your brow. Your hands smell like earth. Your shoulders ache. But somehow, you feel steadier. The garden of the two rivers is behind you now, and the shadow of the ziggurat waits ahead. You leave the last patch of farmland behind, brushing bits of straw from your tunic as you approach the edge of the city. The land flattens, and the air takes on a different scent, less sweet and damp, more clay and charcoal, like warm bricks and cooking fires. Looms ahead, squat and sunburnt, with walls the color of roasted sand. The outer gate yawns like a sleepy mouth, flanked by two battered towers that look like they've seen better dynasties. A pair of guards slouch in the shade, spears upright but attention not so much. One is chewing something green and probably regrettable. The other just squints at you, shrugs, and waves you through. No passport, no bag check, no idea what you're walking into. The gate swallows you, and suddenly you're inside a humming anthill. Narrow alleys snake between buildings like dried-up rivers, each more confusing than the last. Sounds bounce around. Bells, shouts, a baby's scream, the crack of pottery meeting floor. Someone laughs. Someone curses. A boy sprints past you with a goat in tow, and absolutely no plan. You're in the lower quarter, where the mud brick walls sweat, the drains are moody, and every other door seems to be selling something or yelling about someone. You sidestep a broken basket, a suspicious puddle, and a woman loudly arguing with a palm tree. She may be winning. The buildings rise like layered cakes, some 2, even 3 stories tall, their upper floors jutting out on timber beams, casting skinny lanes into shadow. Laundry flaps from every angle. Cats own the roofs. Chickens own everything else. You own exactly 0 things and are starting to feel it. You press forward, trying to remember the path. Was it left at the incense shop or right past the man selling roasted locusts? Too late. You're lost. But lost is a flavor of experience in You pass a group of children playing UB, a game involving knucklebones, shouting, and rules that shift every 3 seconds. One child holds up a perfectly round stone and declares it blessed by Inanna. The others immediately try to steal it. You keep walking. Here's your mainstream historical tidbit of the day. Was one of the most advanced cities of its time. Running water, kind of. A sewage system, usually, and even street lighting, by torch but still. Its population may have reached 65,000 people in its heyday. That's a lot of sandals to dodge in the alleys. You duck under a wooden beam and find yourself in a small courtyard where a man is carving into wet clay with a stylus. He's hunched over a table covered in half-dried tablets, muttering numbers and scratching symbols like he's inventing spreadsheets. You watch for a moment, mesmerized. Cuneiform isn't writing. It's a math dance, a ritual in wedges. The man glances up and gestures vaguely toward your shoes. Measure those, he says in a grumble, pointing to a square grid scratched into the dirt. You step in. Congratulations. You just helped record a shoe tax. You wander on, through the market now, where everything and nothing is for sale. Spices, dates, fish, oil, grain, wool, figs, beer, more beer. A young vendor waves a clay jug at you and yells something about divine bubbles. You consider it. Your stomach answers for you. Not today. There's music here, too. A reed flute, a soft drum, maybe a lyre in the distance. It drifts above the din, like a silk thread tied to something sacred. You pause at a stall selling charms and amulets. The old woman behind it eyes you, then whispers, "Inanna sees more than we do." You nod, unsure whether that's comforting or threatening. Here's a fringe detail you didn't expect. In some ancient Mesopotamian homes, archaeologists found small clay models of beds and food offerings buried beneath thresholds, a little welcome gift for the spirits, or a bribe to keep nightmares outside. Either way, it suggests that doorways were where the physical and spiritual worlds shook hands, or gave each other side-eye. You step over a doorway stone carved with spiral patterns and immediately feel a chill. Or maybe someone just dumped water nearby. Either way, your pace quickens. The streets begin to climb gently. The shadows lengthen. You're approaching the ziggurat now. Not the great temple itself, but its gravity. The buildings grow more orderly, taller, cleaner. There's less shouting, more sweeping. You pass a scribe's school, its door flung open to the sound of chanting students repeating cuneiform signs like holy incantations. One boy yawns mid-syllable and gets a sharp look from the instructor. Historians still argue whether these early schools were for training bureaucrats, priests, or just for keeping unruly boys out of trouble. The answer is probably yes to all three. Nobody fears grammar like a sleepy scribe in training with a clay tablet deadline. You round a bend and find yourself at the edge of a wide square, flat, sun-baked, and echoing with footfalls. It opens like a breath in the middle of the city. At its far end, the ziggurat begins to rise. It's not just a building, it's a mountain made by hands, tier upon tier of baked brick stacked to the sky, its base wide as a field, and its summit lost in sun glare. Ramps spiral upward, guarded by stone lions so worn they look like sleepy house cats. This is where heaven and earth connect, or so the temple priests insist. You sit on a low wall, sweating, staring, a little awestruck. A young woman walks past, carrying a basket of incense and peacock feathers, her robe flowing like water. She doesn't look at you, but the smell of myrrh lingers behind her like a secret. Somewhere up there, on the highest level, someone is lighting a flame for the goddess. Inanna's temple watches everything. A breeze kicks up, carrying with it whispers, chants, wind, just your imagination. Hard to tell. You decide not to climb the ziggurat yet. That's for later. For now, the square calls. You drift toward its center, where potters spin wet clay into bowls and brickmakers argue over who gets the next delivery of straw. A donkey rolls onto its side and groans dramatically. It is unmistakably over it. You pause beside a scribe carving a boundary tablet, curses included. Apparently, If someone moves your fence, Inanna will strike them with madness, boils, and possibly a lizard infestation. Mesopotamian property law was not subtle. You run your hand along a nearby wall. It's warm, solid, ancient, alive in its own way. Breathes. It sweats and complains. It laughs, it curses, it praises, it spills. And now, it knows you. You wake slowly, not from sleep exactly, but from a kind of city trance. The square behind you is fading into quiet, and the ziggurat watches silently above. The sun tips past its highest point, and begins to yawn and stretch in the sleepy heat of late afternoon. This is not the time for politics, or gods, or barley quotas. This is nap hour. Even the donkeys agree. You drift toward the residential heart of the city, where people live behind high mud brick walls, each courtyard sealed off like its own tiny kingdom. Doorways flash past, some painted, some cracked, some covered with reed mats to keep out flies and gossips. The streets twist and curve in what you assume must have been a plan, once. Or maybe someone just built around their neighbors until a path formed. A boy runs by, holding a goose. You don't ask. As you pass one open door, you catch a glimpse of life inside. A woman grinding spices, a toddler chewing on a sandal, an old man humming to a plant. The house breathes around them, thick walls keeping the heat out, small high windows letting in light and wind and smells from nearby kitchens. The homes of are miracles of survival. Mud brick isn't glamorous, but it's what the gods gave. Dirt, straw, water, and patience. It crumbles. It's rebuilt. It remembers more than it reveals. Most Mesopotamians lived like this. Not in palaces, not in temples, but in these courtyards where everyone knows your voice and when you borrowed their firewood last. You pause near a small household shrine, just a niche in the wall with a clay figurine. Round eyes, hands folded, eternal patience. Maybe it's Inanna. Maybe it's a protective spirit. Maybe it's just the best-looking idol someone could trade for a chicken. You touch the edge respectfully. The air shifts, not colder, but aware. Historical pause. Family religion in Mesopotamia was personal and persistent. Sure, there were city gods and temple rituals, but the average person prayed to their ancestors, to kitchen spirits, to the lama, guardian deities who watched over the home like celestial housekeepers. You lit a lamp. You left bread. You hoped for mercy. And occasionally, you whispered your secrets into the cracks in the brick, where maybe, just maybe, someone divine might be listening. You turn down another alley and catch the sharp scent of dye, blue, pungent, almost metallic. A textile workshop hums with motion. Women weaving at vertical looms, fingers flying, their movements more dance than labor. One of them notices you and calls out something that sounds suspiciously like, "You looking for a wife or just lost?" You grin and wave, retreating with dignity. A reed ladder leans against a rooftop where another woman hangs laundry under the gaze of a goat perched like royalty. You blink. The goat blinks back. You lose the staring contest. Below, a tiny girl hands you a fig with solemn ceremony, then runs away before you can thank her. You eat it. It's warm, gritty, and glorious. You pass a wall painted with faded murals, bright, blocky scenes of feasts and lions and men with beards that could bench press you. The paint has flaked, but the intention still roars. This was once a wealthy home. Now, chickens strut through the open door. Quirky fact alert. Some Mesopotamian houses had talking doors. Not literally. They weren't enchanted or Alexa-enabled. But inscriptions were scratched into doorposts. Things like, May this door protect its master. Or, if you enter with ill intent, may your beard catch fire. You make a mental note to add that last one to your apartment someday. A dog lopes past you, thin but proud, then vanishes into a crack in the wall. Somewhere, a flute plays, soft, meandering, a lullaby for bricks. You follow the sound. It leads you into another courtyard, larger this time. A communal space. You see elders gathered on mats, gossiping in low tones while weaving reed fans. A woman offers you a drink from a clay cup. Fermented barley beer, warm and slightly sour. You sip and immediately forget your own name. She laughs. First time? You nod. She gestures for you to sit. You do. The mat is itchy. Your legs thank you anyway. Someone brings out figs and dates. A boy juggles stones and nearly breaks his toe. A girl starts to sing a lullaby about a shepherd who fell in love with the moon. No one knows the ending. That's how it always is. Historians still debate whether these neighborhood clusters operated like formal guilds or looser family networks. Some argue they were managed by big men or local elders. Others think they were more egalitarian, rotating tasks based on need. What's clear is that cities like ran not just on grain and silver, but on favors, faces, and shared stories. As dusk sneaks in, someone lights a small brazier. Smoke curls lazily into the sky, fragrant with cedar. You lean back against the wall, watching stars begin to emerge above the rooftops. The sky in Mesopotamia doesn't twinkle, it blazes. Too many gods to count. Then, a sudden sound? Music, laughter, bells. You follow it and find a wedding celebration spilling into the street. Candles glow from every window. The groom looks terrified. The bride looks amused. Children dart between guests, scattering petals and insults. Someone is frying onions nearby. Your stomach has opinions. You stand, thank your hosts, and continue walking, your shadow stretching long beside you. The walls are painted gold by the last light. You feel like a ghost walking through memory. A flute player beckons you into the dance. You hesitate, then step in. Feet move, hands join. Someone hands you another cup. You don't ask what's in it. You drink. You laugh. You spin. Somewhere above, Inanna watches. Somewhere below, the old bricks hum. You are alive, and welcomes you. You wake with a clay cup stuck to your cheek. Somewhere, a rooster screams in Sumerian. You groan, rub your eyes, and slowly remember. The wedding, the dancing, the second cup of whatever that was, and the man who tried to convince you his donkey was descended from a god. You didn't believe him, but the donkey had a suspiciously noble posture. The street is quiet now, emptied of festivity, littered with flower petals and half-swept memories. A few guests still snooze in doorways, their robes tangled like forgotten prayers. You pick yourself up, stretch, and start walking, guided by instinct and the growing smell of breakfast. Somewhere behind the nearest wall, someone is grinding flour and humming a song that sounds older than dust. Bread is coming, the good kind, flat, blistered on hot clay, maybe rubbed with garlic or dipped in sesame oil. You round a corner, and there it is, a bakery, open air, smoke curling into the morning light. The baker, arms like fired bricks, slaps dough against the inside of a tandoor oven while his daughter ladles out porridge from a blackened pot. You catch her eye. She lifts a bowl. You nod. Transaction complete. As you sit on a worn bench and let the steam rise to your face, the day begins. Wakes slowly but thoroughly. The alleys fill again. Slippers shuffling. Pots clanking. People arguing gently about where to put the goats. You hear the soft thud of a reed broom sweeping dust that will absolutely return tomorrow. Mainstream historical moment. Breakfast in ancient Mesopotamia was simple but functional. Bread, porridge, occasionally dates or cheese. The day started early. Sunrise meant business. Farmers needed to be in the fields, merchants at their stalls, priests at their incense burners. The world didn't wait for you to finish your second coffee, because there wasn't any. You finish your porridge. It tastes of honey and ash and something faintly floral, possibly rosewater, possibly optimism. You thank the girl, who grins and tells you not to trip on your own dreams. You make a note to steal that line. You head toward the temple district. Time to pay your respects. The streets here are straighter, wider, more intentional. Tall mud brick buildings lean just slightly in, like they're eavesdropping. The air shifts, more incense, less sweat. You hear the chant of temple singers before you see them. A slow, rising drone, like wind learning a language. The courtyard ahead opens wide, and the ziggurat towers again. This time, you're not looking at it from the square. You're right up close. The bricks are rough, sun hot. Each tier climbs above you, a stairway for giants. You follow a group of pilgrims, women with jars of oil, men with tokens of grain or dyed cloth. Everyone walks quietly, reverently, even the children. You climb the first ramp. This is your fringe fact of the day. Ziggurats weren't temples in the way we think of cathedrals or mosques. The temple was usually at the top, small, sacred, private. The rest? Foundations, platforms, and mystery. No staircases inside, no windows, just layers rising like a dream. Historians still argue whether these massive structures were meant to connect with gods, stars, or both. The word ziggurat itself may come from the Akkadian zigguratu, meaning to rise high. You rise. By the second level, you're sweating again. The wind picks up, laced with cedar and sky. Below you, the city sprawls like a woven mat. Walls, courtyards, dots of people moving like ants with groceries. You keep climbing. The third level is quiet. A priest meets you there. Older, face lined like driftwood, eyes very alert. He doesn't speak, just nods, and offers you a piece of chalky bread from a platter. You take it, bite, and wonder if reverence is supposed to taste this dry. He nods again. You nod back, the universal language of awkward snack-based rituals. You reach the top. The temple is small, domed, open on one side to the sky. Inside, a statue of Inanna stares out over the city. She is made of gold leaf and lapis lazuli, though the lapis might be painted clay. Hard to tell in this light. Her eyes are wide. Her arms are lifted slightly, as if about to ask a very good question. There's a brazier burning in the center. Fragrant smoke spirals upward, then vanishes. You kneel. Not because you believe, not because you're told, just because it feels like the right thing to do when the air shimmers and the world holds its breath. You think about everything she's seen: war, grain taxes, awkward wedding speeches, lions, love. The air shifts. A single feather drifts down from above, spins, and lands beside you. You don't know where it came from. You don't ask. You walk back down. By midday, you're in the workshop quarter. The clang of metal on stone, the hiss of wet clay on turning wheels, the buzz of reed tools. Here, Mesopotamia makes its real miracles. Dishes, blades, beads, bricks. There's a potter spinning so fast, you're certain he's part hummingbird. You stop to watch a young woman paint a jug with swirling fish. She looks up, raises an eyebrow, and says, "If you're going to stare, at least help me sell it." You hold it up for imaginary customers. She smirks. Not everything here is for temples or nobles. People make things for each other. Lamps shaped like turtles. Dice that clack just right. Seals carved with stories too small to shout but too precious to lose. You spot one that looks like a fox wrestling the moon. You pick it up. The artist leans over. That one's a dream trap, she whispers. Keeps your sleep from escaping before morning. You buy it with a smile and 3 dried figs. As you leave the quarter, a child runs past yelling that the river festival is beginning. You follow the tide of people moving south toward the water, your new dream trap warm in your hand. Is alive today, and so are you. You follow the smell before you see the crowd. Roasted fish, crushed mint, date syrup thick as glue, and the unmistakable scent of a dozen river turtles deciding they've had enough of humanity's noise and would like to retreat. Thank you very much. The banks of the Euphrates are teeming. Kids wading knee-deep with reed baskets. Merchants setting up shade cloths with all the urgency of someone racing the sun, and someone's uncle tuning a lyre very badly. The river festival isn't formal. Not today, anyway. This isn't for the priests. This is for everyone else. An excuse to eat too much, sunburn strategically, and pretend that the crocodiles are definitely not coming this far upstream. You find a shady spot under a date palm, its fronds rattling like gossip overhead, and watch a family try to launch a reed boat that's clearly been built by committee. It floats, sort of, then keels. Then one triumphant child leaps aboard like Gilgamesh himself, arms wide, shouting something about conquering the marshes. He immediately falls in. Everyone cheers. Down the shoreline, women are laying out woven mats for a riverside picnic. Flatbread, cucumbers, onions, pickled turnips, and a mound of eggs painted with spirals and dots. You're handed one with zero context. You thank them and bite in. It's delicious and confusing, like many things here. Historical fact. Pause. The Euphrates wasn't just a water source. It was a highway, a pantry, and sometimes a battlefield. Ancient Mesopotamians relied on it for irrigation, trade, and fish. Canals spidered out from its banks, feeding fields of barley, emmer wheat, and flax. Managing the water was as sacred as it was practical. Many scribes spent their careers tracking water allotments, even carving the phrase, "My ditch is too narrow," into clay tablets when disputes got spicy. Back in the festival, a group of men are hauling a net out of the river, heavy with silver-scaled fish. The net shivers and flops like a basket of arguments. One particularly round fish slips free and flops directly onto your sandal. You both scream. Fringe alert. There's a Mesopotamian tale where Enki, the god of water and wisdom, disguises himself as a fish to escape a trap set by another god. Some folks believed certain fish carried divine whispers or secrets, or at the very least, gossip about the weather. You eye the flopped fish. It blinks once, then flops away. You choose to interpret that as a blessing. Music swells nearby. Reeds and hand drums, sharp and bright and oddly syncopated. You follow the beat to a cluster of dancers forming a circle in the sand, feet stomping in rhythm. A young woman grabs your wrist and spins you into the ring before you can protest. Your hips disagree. Your brain shrugs. Your feet, surprisingly, have opinions. You dance. Sweat clings to your neck. Sand sticks to your ankles. Someone throws petals. Where did they even get petals? A child beats a drum the size of a goat. Your laugh escapes before you can catch it. You flop down after the third song, breathless, limbs humming. Beside you, someone hands you a palm leaf fan shaped like a wing. It doesn't help much, but it looks heroic. You wave it like a tiny victory flag. The crowd thins briefly as the sun reaches its most merciless point. People retreat to shade or into the water. You follow a small group upriver where a hidden cove opens behind a veil of reeds. A family is setting up what looks like a floating altar. Wooden planks lashed together, decorated with strings of shells and tiny oil lamps. One of them explains, with quiet pride, that it's for Inanna's river aspect, she who brings fertility to the land and guidance to those lost on long journeys. They light the lamps, let the platform go, and it drifts away slowly, trailing sparks and whispered prayers. You watch until it vanishes behind a bend in the reeds. Small baked clay amulets shaped like fish, owls, and human eyes. You pick one that looks like a crescent moon with tiny lines etched across it. A dream marker, the vendor says, keeps your sleep from floating downstream. You smile. Already have one of those, you reply, holding up your fox wrestling the moon seal. He nods approvingly. A woman nearby is drawing shapes in the wet sand with a stick. Stars, zigzags, spirals. She explains that it's a form of symbolic meditation, calling the attention of the river spirits. Sometimes, she says, the river replies, not in words, but in shifts. In patterns, she pauses, or in goosebumps. You suddenly have goosebumps. A passing boat draws close. It's more elegant than the others. Its hull smoothed, its edges trimmed with painted blue and gold stripes. Inside are a small group of musicians, playing a haunting tune that sounds like starlight might if it had a melody. Behind them sits an elderly woman in layers of linen and beads, her eyes closed, face serene. Someone whispers, "That's the temple singer." A temple singer was no ordinary musician. These were the voices of the gods, trained from childhood to recite sacred hymns and lull the divine ear. Some say their voices could calm storms. Others say they just had perfect pitch and intimidating grandmothers. She sings. It is quiet power, high and soft and vast all at once. The water stills. Even the breeze hushes. For a moment, you forget who you are. You forget sandals and bread and fish and fig wine. There is only the river, the song, and the place where both meet inside your chest. The boat moves on. Life returns. A boy splashes his sister. A dog tries to steal a fish and fails with flair. A group of teenagers invent a new dance involving elbows and snorts. You wander back to the main festival as the light begins to shift. Long shadows stretch across the bank, and the golden hour turns everything into honey. A small stage has been cleared, and a troupe of performers begins a comedic retelling of an epic. You catch phrases like, "Gilgamesh, you forgot your sandals," and "This isn't a cedar forest, it's just hot." Laughter ripples through the crowd. Even the donkeys seem amused. You sit, content, a bit sunburned, with the river behind you and the stars just beginning to stretch awake. Someone plays a flute nearby. Someone else snores on a pillow of reeds. The moon peeks up, pale and curious. You smile. Inanna is watching. By the time the stars settle overhead, the heat finally gives in. The last flickers of festival music die out, swallowed by crickets and the soft gurgle of the Euphrates curling itself to sleep. People drift homeward in loose knots, humming songs, or carrying leftover bread wrapped in linen. The sand still holds a little warmth, like a memory tucked into the earth. You linger. There's a small pier ahead. more a collection of driftwood lashed with twine than anything official. You sit at the edge, legs dangling, toes brushing river mist. A frog stares at you. You stare back. You win. Barely. Then you hear it. Not the frog. Not the river. Not even the wind nudging reeds. It's a voice. Quiet. Faint. Almost singing. You turn. And there she is. Not Inanna herself. Though, who's to say, really? But a priestess. Young, yes. But with that unshakable stillness that makes time trip over itself. She wears a robe dyed with crushed pomegranate and patterns painted in ochre. Her hair is oiled and wrapped in a spiral braid. Around her neck hangs a crescent-shaped pendant, carved from what looks like bone or ivory. She doesn't smile, but she doesn't frown either. She studies you like a particularly unruly tablet, then gestures for you to follow. You do. The walk is short, but strange. The path twists behind a cluster of tamarisk trees, up a narrow stair carved into the riverbank. At the top waits a low building with no windows and a door painted black with thick, chalky symbols drawn across it. You recognize a few. Inanna's star, a symbol for dreams. One that might mean question or threshold, depending on how much wine the scribe had that day. Inside, it's cool, silent. The scent is the first thing that hits. Incense, lotus, crushed leaves, something bitter. You step through a curtain of beads and find yourself in a room you didn't expect. Dream chamber. There's no better word. Cushions, everywhere. Low platforms draped in soft wool and linen, baskets of herbs, trays of strange stones, bowls of water that reflect nothing you recognize. Everything glows gold. Oil lamps, placed carefully to flicker just so. There's no music, but you hear it anyway. You're not here to sleep, the priestess says suddenly. You're here to listen. She hands you a small tablet, still soft, unbaked. A stylus rests beside it. You will dream, and you will write what you see, before it fades. This isn't your usual bedtime ritual, but you nod. You lie back on a cushion that smells like sage and sun. She places a tiny round stone in your palm. Cool, heavy, carved with a spiral. She whispers something in a language you don't know, but feels familiar in your bones. You close your eyes, and you fall. It's not sleep, not exactly, but the air thickens, and your limbs lose their outline. The chamber tilts, the scent of incense deepens, and suddenly you're somewhere else. In the dream, you're standing in a wide open plain beneath 3 moons. The grass whispers in a language you almost understand. A herd of lions passes you by without noticing. A man with silver eyes offers you a fish made of light and says, "Feed this to the sun when it weeps." You nod because, why wouldn't you? You walk into a ziggurat made of feathers. Each step hums. Each breath smells of cinnamon and thunder. You find Inanna at the top, seated on a throne of mirrors. Her gaze pins you like a tablet on a shelf. "Tell them I remember," she says, even when they forget. And then, just before the mirrors begin to sing, you wake, gasping, sweaty, confused, moved. The priestess is still there. She doesn't ask what you saw. She only hands you the stylus. Your hand moves before your brain catches up. The symbols flow, awkward, uneven, clumsy even, but honest. Images, fragments, the fish, the mirrored throne, the whisper in the grass. She reads over your shoulder, then nods. "We collect these," she says, "not for meaning, for weight. Dreams are currency, heavier than silver, lighter than lies. This is your historical gem for the night. The ancient Mesopotamians had a robust belief in dream interpretation. Priests and priestesses would serve as dream readers, not fortune tellers exactly, but analysts of the subconscious. Clay tablets record dream omens meticulously. If a man dreams of eating dates, good fortune comes. If a woman dreams of climbing a ziggurat, beware betrayal. Entire libraries existed just to decode what happened behind closed eyelids. Also, here's your quirky fringe tidbit. Some sleep temples may have doubled as mini hospitals. Patients were encouraged to sleep in sacred spaces to receive divine healing, or at least convincing hallucinations. Some rituals involve beer, music, and what can only be described as aggressive feather waving. You think about telling the priestess your lion-herding moon dream, but she's already turned away. Outside, the night is quieter now, heavier. The stars blink slower, like they're pondering things too. You walk back to the edge of the city, the soft pad of your sandals on dust the only sound. Somewhere, a dog barks. Somewhere else, someone laughs in their sleep. You pass a man curled beside a broken wall, clutching a tablet. On it, faint impressions of a fish, a boat, and the sign for forget. He mumbles something about rain not being late this time. You smile. A temple bell rings in the distance. Not loud, just enough to remind the darkness that morning will eventually show up. You pause, just for a moment, to look back. The dream chamber's lamplight flickers once more behind the trees, then vanishes. You keep walking, your own breath now the lullaby. The next morning sneaks up on you like a thief with soft sandals. Not that you've had proper sleep. You've drifted in and out, caught somewhere between dream fog and donkey brays, between the memory of feathered ziggurats and the practical urge to find breakfast. The streets of the city are already warm and buzzing with sound. Clay jars clinking, market cries echoing, and a chorus of complaints about the price of barley. You wander. The air smells like ash and honey. A woman walks past carrying an enormous basket balanced perfectly on her head, its contents hidden under damp cloth. A baker slaps flatbread onto the side of a clay oven, steam curling like ancient handwriting. Someone's kid runs by with a toy chariot made of reeds and way too much enthusiasm. You've landed in the artisan quarter. Everywhere, hammers tap, wheels spin, and kilns hiss with heat. This is the pulse of the city, the hidden heart, pounding steadily behind the priestly pageantry. You duck under an archway just in time to avoid a bucket of dye being flung skyward by a startled apprentice. The fabric in question is now bright blue. So is the apprentice. So are you. You're fine with it. You pass a workshop where a woman carves seals, cylindrical and delicate, each one etched with symbols smaller than the fingernail of a fly. She pauses, glances up, and offers you a thin smile. Want to try? She asks. You do. It's impossible. The stylist slips. Your divine eagle looks like a confused duck. She laughs. The gods don't care about symmetry, she says. They care that you tried. You nod, grateful, and leave your terrible duck behind as tribute. Here's your historical moment. Seals weren't just decorations. They were signatures, keys, and identities all in one. Everyone who mattered had one, and many who didn't pretended they did. Merchants used them to sign deals. Scribes used them to approve records. Even children were gifted baby-sized seals, starter kits for bureaucracy. You step into a shaded courtyard where a potter shapes a lump of clay into what might become either a goblet or a vaguely judgmental bull. He tells you that the clay must listen to your fingers. His assistant mutters that the clay listens too well, and then breaks in protest. You decide not to touch anything. You wander farther until the sound changes. Less clang. More clink. You've found the metal workers. Fire leaps in open pits. Bronze gleams on racks. Someone is hammering out a sword that looks more ceremonial than practical. Others melt tin and copper, their faces streaked with soot and pride. One young man is engraving a tiny image of a lion devouring a bull on a knife hilt. You ask why. Balance, he says. The lion wins today. The bull might win tomorrow. Both must exist. Mesopotamians were masters of metallurgy long before iron ever made its debut on the ancient catwalk. Bronze was king, durable, sharp, shiny enough to admire your sleep-deprived reflection. But beyond weapons and tools, they crafted art. Statuettes, relief plaques, and decorative hairpins that could double as mild deterrents in an argument. A curious object catches your eye. A metal mirror, round and heavy, its back adorned with a scene of Inanna standing on the backs of lions, arms outstretched, stars in her hair. You pick it up, and for a moment, just a moment, you see her again. Not in the reflection exactly, but in your head. Or maybe behind your eyes, her voice from the dream chamber. Tell them I remember. You blink. She's gone. Fringe fact time. Ancient Mesopotamians believed that mirrors could reflect the soul, not just the face. Some rituals involved covering mirrors during illness or death to prevent wandering spirits from getting stuck. Others used polished obsidian or burnished metal to see dreams, or, in rare cases, speak to divine forces. Mirrors weren't casual. They were doors. A bell rings in the artisan district. One short, sharp tone. Lunchtime. Everything pauses. Tools down. Fires damped. Aprons dropped. You're pulled into a low-ceilinged room where a dozen artisans pass around bowls of lentils, bread, and something that smells aggressively pickled. You accept everything. The bread is soft. The lentils are spicy. The pickled thing bites back. You survive. Someone tells a joke about a potter and a scribe walking into a temple. It ends with the punchline, and that's why we don't let bulls near the kiln. You don't get it. You laugh anyway. After the meal, you help clean up, handing back bowls, stacking baskets, pretending you know where the wash basin is. A child hands you a lump of clay shaped vaguely like a lion. You accept it like a gift from royalty. In the afternoon heat, things slow. Some lie down under cloth canopies. Others return to their tools with the resigned grace of those who know heat cannot be defeated, only endured. You follow a quiet alley behind a weaver's stall, where a cat naps atop a loom and doesn't care who owns it. You end up in a tiny workshop. No sign, just the scent of ink. Inside, scribes, rows of them, young and old, bent over clay or wax, styluses clacking. A teacher walks behind them, muttering corrections. You catch snippets. No, that's destiny, not donkey. How many times? And you must feel the sentence, breathe the sentence. You're handed a damp tablet and a stylus without preamble. You carve a line. It looks like someone spilled noodles on the mud. The teacher squints. A start, he says, and walks off. You beam. Historically, scribes were elite, trained in tablet houses, eduba, and often employed in temples, courts, and private households. They were the memory keepers, the math solvers, the calendar keepers. Some could even read older languages their own generation no longer spoke. A few were women, too, though that's still debated by scholars piecing together names from cracked tablets. Somewhere, a bell rings again. The heat has begun to break. The artisans stretch, laugh, roll shoulders. You slip away quietly, tablet tucked under your arm, still damp with effort. As you walk toward the edge of the district, the sounds change again. Less industry, more ritual, chants, gongs, and the unmistakable hum of something holy on the horizon. You follow it, heart thudding, lion lump tucked under one arm, and your terrible tablet held like a treasure. Inanna's voice is silent now, but her memory lingers. The sacred hum pulls you like a tide. Past the artisan quarter, the city exhales into open plazas, temple courtyards, and shadowed colonnades. The stones beneath your sandals shift, from dusty cobble to smooth flagstone, rubbed soft by centuries of feet, both priestly and ordinary. Overhead, pigeons gossip from their roosts under carved lintels. Below, everyone walks slower now, as if entering a place where time is asked politely to behave. Ahead, the ziggurat rises. It's taller than you remember. Or maybe it's just the light. The golden hour wraps every edge in fire, and the tiers of the temple step glow like something carved from the sun's ribcage. The air carries a faint metallic scent, burned incense, bronze bells, and the breath of old gods. You pause at the base, where wide stairs stretch up like a promise. The people here walk with intention. Some carry offerings, dates, barley, little carved statues. Others bring questions. You bring yourself and the lion lump, which has somehow become your mascot. It stares at you judgmentally. You nod back in solidarity. You ascend, not quickly. The steps are steep and oddly shaped, some shallow, some tall, all designed, perhaps, to slow you down and make you think twice, or thrice. You lose count after the fourth tier. At the fifth, you pass a pair of temple guards wearing gold-threaded sashes and deeply unimpressed expressions. They let you through with a glance. You're not sure if that's a compliment or a cosmic joke. You finally reach the summit, breathless and sweaty, sandals slightly uncooperative. The temple entrance looms, massive, shadowed, inscribed with spirals and the sacred eight-pointed star. A banner flutters lazily above the lintel, dyed deep blue and stitched with silver thread. Inside, coolness and quiet. Not the silence of emptiness, but of attention. A priest kneels before a low altar, muttering a prayer. A young acolyte arranges bowls of offerings, milk, beer, honey, and oddly enough, garlic. You resist the urge to ask if the gods are warding off spiritual vampires. You've reached Inanna's high temple. Here's your historical truth drop. Ziggurats weren't just temples. They were divine escalators. Mesopotamians believed these towering structures bridged the heavens and earth. The higher the step, the closer to the divine. Unlike modern temples, meant for congregational gathering, these were for the gods alone. Atop each ziggurat was a bedroom for the deity, a symbolic space for divine rest, dreams, and occasionally, divine visitation. That's right. Some festivals even involved ritual reenactments of divine unions. Mesopotamian rulers would sometimes symbolically marry the goddess through temple rites, reaffirming cosmic order. Historians still argue whether these acts were theatrical metaphors or more participatory than advertised. You sit on a bench beside a painted column. The stone is cold against your back. You're not sure why you're here, only that the dream brought you, and the dream never lies. The acolyte notices you. She approaches, holding a bowl of water. For washing, she says. You rinse your hands. She nods, then hands you something small, an amulet in the shape of a bird, carved from bone, etched with a spiral pattern that matches the dream chamber stone. You carry the mark? She says cryptically. You nod, as if this explains anything. She leads you through a curtain woven from reeds and fine thread. The inner sanctum is darker. Lamps burn low. The scent of incense thickens, wrapping around you like a velvet robe. In the center of the chamber stands a low dais with a statue, Inanna herself, cast in bronze and inlaid with lapis lazuli. Her arms are raised. Her eyes are wide. She's terrifyingly beautiful. Or beautifully terrifying. Possibly both. You kneel, not because you're told to, but because something in your gut insists you do. A voice speaks. Not out loud. Not in words. But you understand. I am not past. I am not gone. I do not wait in silence. You close your eyes. A strange calm spreads from your spine outward. Then, from somewhere behind the altar, a soft melody begins. A harp, a reed flute, voices chanting low and slow. The sound isn't meant to entertain. It's meant to unlock. You feel it pressing gently at your memory like fingers on clay. You see flashes again, lions walking under moonlight, a river that flows backward, a mirror that breathes. Your breathing slows. Fringe fact time. Some high temples included what scholars now believe were sensory chambers, spaces designed to disorient, soothe, or induce trance. Strategically placed incense, sound manipulation, and even rudimentary light wells created otherworldly experiences. Some believe these were early attempts at consciousness alteration, divine VR, if you will. A priestess emerges, face veiled, hands holding a long scroll. She places it on a stone table, unrolls it carefully. It's a dream ledger. You recognize a symbol. Yours. The fish of light. It's there, etched neatly in line with hundreds of others. A strange pride fills you. You are part of the archive, part of the memory. You are dream-touched, the priestess says. Many are. Few return. You don't ask what that means. You already know. Eventually, the music fades. The incense dims. The chamber grows cooler. You're guided back outside, slowly, reverently, down the steep stairs, back into the soft arms of the evening. The city has shifted again. Quieter. Shadows longer. Lamps flickering on. You walk among people who chatter about daily things. Crops, goats, the merchant who tried to sell fake dates. You smile. It's oddly comforting to know that divine visions and counterfeit fruit coexist peacefully. You pass a child playing a game with pebbles and chalk. He waves. You wave back. You notice now how much you've changed, not outwardly, but in the tilt of your thinking, in the way the wind feels on your skin, in how dreams no longer feel like strangers. You turn once more toward the ziggurat. A star glows just above it, bright, unblinking. You nod. She remembers. The star lingers above the ziggurat like a punctuation mark from another realm. You take a final look, just one more, before drifting away from the sacred rise. The air is cooler now, settling into its nighttime rhythm. Frogs croak near irrigation canals. A distant lyre twangs with the uneven confidence of someone either very drunk or very new to music. Probably both. Your lion lump bobs gently in your arm, still unimpressed. You follow the winding path east into the older districts, places where the walls lean with age and the bricks show fingerprints of their makers. Overhead, strings of clay lanterns begin to glow with fish oil flames. You pass a group of women washing dishes in a courtyard, their laughter rising like a flock of birds. A dog sleeps with its nose tucked beneath its tail. Someone hums an old lullaby. Tonight, you will rest in the guest corner of a merchant's home. recommended by a potter, vouched for by a baker, and approved by the small boy who insisted their bread was way better than the southern quarters. You don't argue. You're just happy to have a roof and a cushion. The courtyard is shaded by a fig tree, its fruit still green but fragrant. Inside, woven mats cover the floor, and clay lamps cast soft shadows along the mud brick walls. The merchant's wife offers you a cup of something warm, dates boiled with spices, and then leaves you in peace, with a mat, a pillow, and a folded wool blanket decorated with that same spiral pattern. You think about asking what it means, but the words don't come. Your body's already halfway to dreams. You lie back. Above you, the ceiling beams hold little carvings: stars, birds, riverfish, a history in wood. You trace them with your eyes. Here's your final fact drop. Mesopotamians believed in multiple layers of dreams, some sent by gods, others by ghosts, still others by the stirrings of the self. They recorded dreams in ledgers, interpreted them through priests, and sometimes even reenacted them in rituals to redirect fate. One king reportedly delayed a battle for 3 days because a dream told him his left foot would trip. It did. As you breathe deeper, your thoughts begin to float, light and unanchored. You remember the seal carver's smile, the confused duck you tried to make, the kid with the reed chariot, the woman weaving fate into cloth, the reflection of Inanna. No, not a reflection, but something else. A door you opened and can't quite close. And you know what? That's okay. Fringe knowledge becomes memory. Memory becomes myth. And myth becomes comfort. The night deepens. You're half asleep now, floating through ancient smells and sounds: roasting grain, burning cedar, the rhythmic splash of water wheels. You think of questions you didn't ask, but they no longer feel urgent. Some stories don't need to be solved. They just need to be shared. You curl onto your side. The lion lump sits beside you like a sleepy sentry. From the street, a voice calls out a blessing in Sumerian. Soft, rhythmic, old as the stars. You don't understand it. You don't need to. Your final joke of the night? You've probably inhaled enough incense to dream in cuneiform. If you start mumbling about ziggurats in your sleep, don't be surprised. The lantern dims. Your breath slows. A fish of light swims through the back of your mind. And Inanna whispers, not in words, but in warmth, I do not fade. You believe her? You sleep. And now everything grows quieter. The city settles into its bones, cradled in starlight, wrapped in the hush of centuries. The clay houses, the brick streets, the great temples, all breathing slowly in the deep of the night. Somewhere, a fig falls from a branch. Somewhere else, a priest dreams of rivers. The air is thick with sleep, and you're floating with it. Let the imagery linger. Date palms rustling gently, the slow lap of water along the canal, the soft rhythm of sandals padding across baked earth. The sky, above it all, wide and watching. There are no more tasks to complete, no more lessons to learn, just rest, soft, patient rest.